Did you think that USCIS always makes decisions fairly and guided by honor and justice and all the positive things that you may think about? Well, even though they try to be fair, they don't always reach that goal. Today, in this video, we're going to see a couple of cases so you can understand what I'm talking about, why these categories that we talk about, they are highly subjective, and how USCIS, a lot of times, they make sloppy decisions that we definitely don't agree with. So if you have received an RFE that doesn't make a lot of sense, or a denial, hopefully not, but if that's your case, I'm here to tell you that you're not alone, and I'm going to show you a couple of examples. Hi, my name is Oscar, and I'm not a lawyer. In this channel, we talk about green card categories in which you can self-petition. And that means that you don't need to have a job offer, a company sponsoring you, and you can even do it without lawyers. Do it yourself. And you can do that in EB2 NIW or in EB-1A. Those are two categories in which you can save a little bit of money, do it without lawyers, and do it without a job offer. Today, as I mentioned earlier, we're going to talk about sloppy decisions from USCIS. I love talking about more positive aspects of the processes. I love talking about how the January visa bulletin is moving forward that we saw in my previous video. I love talking about success stories in EB2 NIW, in EB-1A, learning about those positive experiences. But sometimes we also have to learn about darker topics in which we will learn about mistakes from USCIS. We learn about things that are not properly done on their end, so you can mentally prepare yourself and are really ready to take on this challenge of applying by yourself for a green card, a merit-based green card. I like to really motivate you. I like to be positive, and in general, I think my videos will have that vibe, but from time to time, you will find videos like this one where I try to prepare you for the worst case scenario. And sometimes, unluckily, recently it's happening more and more, sometimes those worst case scenarios come true. So let's move to this screen and talk about USCIS. Sloppy decisions. Even though we all know that EB2 NIW and EB-1A are discretionary in nature, USCIS is required to properly reason their decisions, be it an RFE, request for evidence, or a denial. By the way, I have a video on RFEs that you can watch. It's pretty old. I'll end up making a new one, but you can get a sense of what is an RFE and why it's not the end of the world. However, even though they need to reason their decisions, sometimes they don't do a great job on this. Why do I say that EB2 NIW and EB-1A are discretionary? Because there is of course, there is regulations about EB2 NIW and EB-1A. For EB2 NIW, we have a lot of stuff based on the precedent matter of Danasar. I also have a video explaining that matter of Danasar. But if you watch a video or two, if you read the USCIS website, you will quickly understand that most of this category, EB2 NIW and even EB-1A, is highly subjective. For example, in EB-1A, we may be talking about national importance. That is really a key aspect of your case. And while there are effective ways of arguing for national importance, at the end of the day, you need to convince the person on the other side, the USCIS officer, and they may agree or not with your arguments. And that is the same if you do it by yourself or if a lawyer writes the petition for you. They also need to convince that human being that is more likely than not that you are meeting that particular requirement, in this case, national importance. But for EB-1A, it's the same for extraordinary ability. You need to fulfill at least three criteria for that category. And while there are criteria, there is a regulation saying what you have to have. A lot of those criteria are not objective. When we talk, for example, about significant contributions to your field, that's an example of criteria where your opinion and your arguments may not be able to convince a USCIS officer, versus other more objective criteria like higher salary, where at the end of the day, you're going to show your salary, you're going to show the average salary in your field for your professional experience level, and it's going to be way more objective. But most of the criteria, most of the aspects in EB2 NIW and EB-1A are not super objective, okay? So in this channel, I show you ways to argue. In my courses, I show you even more detail on how to do things. But at the end of the day, you can encounter a tough officer that will either just not agree with you and properly argue their decision, or worst case scenario, you will find a not very well argued RFE or an improperly argued denial decision. And you have to be prepared for this, okay? I'm not justifying it. I'm not saying USCIS has all the right to do this. I don't agree with that kind of situation. I wish they didn't make those mistakes, but this is something that it exists, and I'm here to tell you that you are not alone if you are in that kind of situation. By the way, the USCIS Policy Manual, Volume 1, Part E, Chapter 9, says that even though these processes are discretionary, the officer may not exercise discretion arbitrarily, inconsistently, or in reliance on biases or assumptions. And that's where, as a good self-petitioner, or if you are a lawyer or you have a lawyer, you will become good at arguing back in an RFP, okay? So I'm going to present two case studies today. One is a little bit longer. The second one is very short. The first one is on EB2 NIW, a case of an entrepreneur. This is a real case, by the way. I'm not saying names. I will not say country of origin. I will say very little about this person because I want to respect the privacy, but this is a real case that I have seen, okay? Entrepreneur, highly accomplished, and works in a field with clear national importance, has a very well-articulated endeavor, actually, in one of these trendy fields that we are hearing a lot lately, that we know that USCIS really likes, by the way. The original petition this person submitted was submitted in May this year, and RFE was received in September 2023. A few months later, you see that now the cases are moving pretty fast. That's a positive for USCIS, even though today we're talking mostly negative about them. That's something that we need to acknowledge also. The RFE challenged the advanced degree and prongs 1 and 3. Specifically in prong 1, they challenged national importance. And then prong 3, if you fail one of the prongs, you are automatically going to fail prong 3 as well. Also, the officers didn't agree that he held an advanced degree, even though the original petition was pretty good at that. But well, there was room to improve the arguments there. The response to RFE this person submitted in November 2023, so within the timeline, and the denial was received in December 2023, just very shortly after. Denials or approvals after an RFE are very, very fast to be received, okay? So I'm going to focus on one of the prongs, prong number 2. Prong number 2 for this person was accepted. So when he received the RFE, if you remember, I mentioned that prongs 1 and 3 failed, but prong 2 was accepted because USCIS said in their letter that the petitioner's work has served as an impetus for progress in the field, demonstrating that his work constitutes a track record of success or progress, and it is sufficient to meet this prong, an indication that he is well positioned to advance the endeavor. So really, really nice words from USCIS. Of course, there was more detail about it, but I don't want to share that because that would give away the profile of this person, and I don't want to do that. So after a thorough analysis, they provided this conclusion. So USCIS can conclude that the petitioner is well positioned to advance a specific proposed endeavor. So that's nice. At least within the negative aspect of reading the RFE, he got a pass on prong number 2. So this person submitted the response for the RFE. He focused on advanced degree. He focused on national importance, prong 1, and of course, prong number 3. So let's see what happens in the denial notice. The denial notice came with inconsistencies, even within the denial notice itself. let's see what I mean by that. The denial notice on page 3 says that the petitioner submitted sufficient evidence to demonstrate that the proposed endeavor has substantial merit and that they are well positioned to advance the proposed endeavor. However, the evidence does not establish that the endeavor has national importance, and on balance, it would be beneficial to the United States to waive. So here they are repeating the same thing that the RFE said. He fulfills prong number 2, he is well positioned, but he doesn't fulfill prong 1, national importance, and prong 3. Okay, that until here, you may agree or not with the arguments that they make. I actually read everything, and I think the officer just didn't read the response. But the big issue is that later in the denial notice, page 5, the USCIS officers goes on to analyze prong number 2, even when they had accepted prong number 2 in the RFE. So here, they do as if everything they had written inside that denial notice didn't exist, and it says that after the RFE, the petitioner submitted these 3 things. By the way, the petitioner did not submit anything regarding prong number 2 because the RFE didn't ask for that, because the RFE accepted prong number 2. USCIS has taken into consideration the evidence provided with the initial submission as well as the response for RFE. USCIS contends that the petitioner submitted evidence in response to the request for evidence that fails to establish that they are well positioned. If on page 3 they were saying that this person was well positioned, they also said the same thing in the RFE. Now in page 5, 2 pages later, they say that the petitioner is not well positioned. And I wanted to show you this because a lot of times these officers, they are not consistent. And you can clearly see by reading the rest of the letter, the denial notice, that they didn't really analyze the RFE response, which is a pity because this person puts a lot of effort in drafting that response to the RFE. He put a lot of effort in providing new evidence for national importance, on how he will have a positive economic impact in the US. He crafted a really comprehensive document, and you can see that they really didn't pay attention to anything. And not only that, but here is the proof that they are not even being consistent across the denial itself. Okay, so to me, this is negligence. This is really negative, and I have seen this in a few other instances. So it's important to make this kind of video to make you aware of this, and also in case that USCIS or someone at USCIS watches any videos outside their offices, I hope they can find this kind of message asking them to do a better job. They should be really held to a high standard. Okay, so quick break and we'll go to the second case study that is going to be shorter. If you are very serious about EB1, go to eb1greencard.info. If you are serious about EB2 NIW, EB2NIW.info. I have a lot of information there. As a do-it-yourself petitioner, you will benefit a lot from. Particularly, courses, online courses for do-it-yourself petitioners. This is the example of the course curriculum for EB2 NIW. We are more and more people in the course. We do monthly live sessions on the EB2 NIW course. Inside each module, you will find a lot of different lectures. You can submit questions in each lecture. I give priority to that. Every day when I wake up, the first thing I do is answer comments in the course platform. And once a month, as I said, we are going to meet face-to-face as a group, and you can, again, ask questions there. All right, so that was my brief pause to finish now with case study number 2. In case study number 2, we're going to see an EB-1A green card case, and it's really this screen that I'm going to show only. I'm not going to show anything from this person other than this is an EB-1A petitioner, professor, scientist, and submitted 4 criteria for extraordinary ability. Remember that you need to have at least 3 to qualify as an EB-1A extraordinary ability applicant. If you want to know more about extraordinary ability, you can go and check out my video on that. So he submitted evidence for published material about the petitioner and their work, that this person judged the work of others, that this person had original contributions of major significance and published articles, typically scholarly articles. So USCIS accepted 2 of these criteria and denied 2 of them, among which it was published media. So if you see these 4 criteria, the ones that are more objective are judging the work of others, because typically what you show is that you, for example, review work in peer review work in peer review journals. So that's pretty objective, either you have it or not. And if you have articles, that's also pretty objective. You show your articles, you show the author list, you talk a little bit about them, and it's not that difficult to prove that you have that criteria. However, original contributions, like I said earlier in the video, is a more subjective criteria where you can do all the arguing you want, but at the end of the day, you may not be able to convince the USCIS officer. Published material refers to media reports where, imagine, CNN or The Guardian talk about you and about the work you do. In this case, a scientist doing certain important work. So this person was featured in many newspaper articles. He had all the evidence. So one would think that this is highly objective material to show where he is mentioned, his work is mentioned, the importance of his work is mentioned, and USCIS denied this criteria in the RFP. So I was very baffled by this. I just provided my personal opinion so this person could write it better. And after he submitted the RFP, this person denied the petition, and they arbitrarily maintained the rejection on these 2 criteria, the original contributions and the published material about the petitioner, which left me really speechless because, again, the published material evidence was pretty objective. It was very abundant. It was not just 1 or 2 reports. It was a multitude of reports in the media. And again, USCIS decided that that was not enough, didn't really provide much explanation beyond what was written in the RFE. So that was something that really makes me sad to read. In these cases, does it make sense to appeal? In my opinion, in most cases, it still doesn't. It makes more sense to resubmit. Why? Because the success rate for an appeal is very low, they are hard to win, and submitting an appeal costs money. It will cost you almost as much as a fresh petition. And if you submit a fresh petition, you will get another officer to review your case, and you will get 2 chances, the original petition and again an RFP. If you want to know more about appeals, you can go and check this video that I have. I'll leave a link here, and you can learn more about what they mean. I hope you like the video that I present to you today. I hope you don't get too demotivated, but I do wish that this gives you more confidence to also give you the worst case scenario so you can be mentally prepared to receive one of these RFPs that don't make a lot of sense, or even a denial notice. I hope not. But if you get it, you're not alone. This happens. Hopefully it will happen less and less as these USCIS officers get trained, but we'll have to see about that, okay? So thank you as usual for your attention, for being here, for subscribing to my channel, and I will see you in the next video.